late as usual. Can you see if you can find him?
Of course.
Dr. Vanderveer, your reporter and the photographer from the Sentinel have arrived. I showed them your receipts. Is there anything else you need me to do? Not unless you want one of her visitors up in the torture chamber. What? Oh, Mrs. Westbrook. I didn't do that. Forget I said that, Jane. After all, Loretta's money did make their expedition to Egypt possible. If you check your laptop, we've got release again. I sent Lena to find her. Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Joanne Vanderveer. I'm the curator of the Hamilton Museum, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's lecture. We're running a little bit behind schedule, so we please ask that you bear with us. Our guest speaker, Professor Dirk Carlton, will be with us momentarily. As you well may know, Professor Dirk Carlton is one of the world's leading Egyptologists, and oh, here you are. As I was about to say, tonight, Professor Carlton will be telling us about his marvelous discoveries of the tomb of Menkaura.
Menkaura, strange man apparently, worshipped Yuadu, the cobra goddess. Had the head of a snake and the body of a woman. Huge fangs, ugly woman. Hood all swelled up.
Yes, sir, I'm sure it's all in your notes.
My notes? I seem to have misplaced them.
Sir.
Oh, pesky infection. Got it swimming in the Nile. I was swimming. It was already there.
That's not the only fungus you brought back with you. That devoted assistant of yours.
Francis! My lawyer!
Mrs. Carlton, what you're implying is ridiculous. Dirk and I are merely friendly co-workers, that's all. Tell that to the judge in divorce court.
Mrs. Carlton, please. This is most inappropriate. I must insist you sit down and do not interrupt again. I hate to ask the guards to escort you out.
Very well, but I'm not through with you yet. Can we please get going?
Going? Where are we going? Oh, the lecture. Right.
Elena. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Elena Newman, Professor Carlton's able assistant and archaeologist in her own right. As you probably surmised, she accompanied Professor Carlton on his latest expedition to Egypt and was there when they discovered the tomb of Menkaura. Tomorrow, sorry, it's been such a stressful night. Tomorrow they'll be flying back to finish this important project.
Dr. Vanderveer, Russ Palmer with the Sentinel. The paper was going to write a cover story on Dr. Carlton and his findings this Sunday. Many major publications such as Time, Life, and National Geographic have asked us to submit photography on their behalf. I brought with me Betty Lang, the paper's foremost photographer, to assist me. Would you mind if we grabbed a couple of photos before the lecture began while the audience is still here?
It won't take but a couple of minutes, Dr. Vanderveer.
Time, National Geographic. The publicity would be most invaluable to the museum. It is most irregular. By all means, Dirk. Can we take some pictures?
Pictures? Yes. Just as long as you don't take as many as you like.
Where would you like me to stand?
I prefer to take candid shots. Let me get some of the audience first.
Is there a storm coming?
No, the young lady's taking photographs for the newspaper.
Oh, grab a couple of pictures of the doctor with the professor. Great God. We'll grab a couple of more and then we'll wait until after the lecture to take pictures of everything on the stage and everything in the exhibition hall.
Joanne, I must protest.
Who are you, lady?
I'm Brenda Westbrook and I financed Professor Carlton's expedition. Stop that! Don't you dare mention my name in your newspaper! Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize for the shocking way my money has been spent by the museum. House of Horrors, indeed. I thought I was making a generous donation to the arts, not financing some circus sideshow. How could the Hamilton Museum sponsor such an eccentric display of bad taste? And in conjunction with the ghoulish series on monsters, murders, and madmen, you ought to be ashamed.
That is not Mackenzie.
I'm sorry you're displeased, Mrs. Westbrook. The fact is, even with wealthy donations from patrons such as yourself, the museum also depends on this community to survive. Last month, we featured an exhibit about fossilized plants from the Paleozoic era. Do you know how many people showed up to that? 16. And they were 5-year-olds on a preschool trip. They thought they were going to see dinosaur bones.
Mrs. Westbrook, like you know, the public is fascinated with monsters, murders, and madmen. They've been attending our expedition in droves.
They come here for the same reasons thousands of tourists go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London, and have since 1802. To see the figures of the most famous people who ever existed, of course, but mainly to get a good safe scare by walking through her chamber of horrors. Our current exhibit is giving the public what it wants.
I don't remember asking for your opinion, Miss Newman. If you throw a slop into a trough, pigs will run to it. I wasn't talking about you, of course. I just meant, oh dear.
Let me speak to you, Lorena. After all, this is what you paid me for. I am Elvira Gray, Miss Westbrook's attorney. That is not my good side.
Gotcha. Really, Elvira?
You spell gray with an A or an E.
A. G-R-A-Y, with gray, green, black, and white.
Sounds like the colors of the Mongolian national flag.
Gray, green, black, and white is the most prestigious law firm in the city.
How do you spell prestigious?
The Egyptians used to worship Nekbet, the vulture goddess. Rumor has it she was a lawyer.
Nekbet. Vultures had on a woman's body. Made the Cobra goddess look like Miss America by comparison.
You heard that? What's your name? And yours? Well, Kelly, I'm going to subpoena you to appear as a witness in the slander suit I'm going to file for the museum.
Please, Miss Gray, turning the land we're comparing you to Macbeth.
Of course not. When it comes to horrible creatures, there's really no comparison.
Blasphemers! Infidels! You call Nekbet a horrible creature? And you refer to her and Eugene as ugly beings? How dare you insult our goddess in such a vile manner? Our deities are powerful and vengeful. Beware lest they strike you down for your disrespect.
These vociferers with one or two.
Surely you can't believe, my good lady, that these mythical creatures actually exist. I have seen the result of their anger. Their revenge is swift and terrible. You say it was your money that funded this expedition, that brought about the desecration of Ankar's tomb? Then you are as cursed as they, and you too are doomed to die an excruciating death.
Oh no, we're not excruciating.
I hate them.
You heard that? What's your name? Well, I'm going to arrange for you to appear as a witness in this court case. I've been violating this law. Never against my life.
So I'm going to call their head with the gods of Egypt themselves.
Beware the curse of Ankara. accomplished here. We must deal with these infidels when the time is right.
Perhaps you're correct, Isis, when the time is right.
Alman, god of mystery. Strange names, actually. Gahiji, hunter, and Isis, goddess of magic. Their elementary school teachers must have felt funny. Mrs. Alman, your daughter, Isis, the goddess of magic, has been caught chewing gum in class again.
I don't care who you are. You can't just come down here and threaten our citizens. It's against the law.
Your laws cannot touch us. We are aides of our country's embassy here, and we are not subject to your government's dictates.
Is that true? They really are aides, Miranda. I'm afraid it is. We'll find another way to deal with these people. Come, sit. You look a little pale.
Embassy, huh? Betty, get the picture. You say that you're looking for something stolen from your country. Just what is that, Miss Alman?
The artifacts that were in the mighty pharaoh's tomb, most especially the jewel.
The jewel. Oh, yes.
And what jewel is that?
The Eye of Yuji.
Yuji, the one that the professor calls the cobra goddess?
The Eye of Yuji served as the goddess's eyes in a priceless gold statue of Yuji. In the Menkaura's tomb, it was taken and removed from the land of the pharaohs.
Look, ma'am, your State Department gave permission for us to bring to the United States the relics that you see displayed here.
The irresponsible act of corrupt bureaucrats! Mrs. Alman, since it was our expedition that found the jewels, the Egyptian government generously allowed us to borrow a few of the items. In due time, they will be returned to Cairo as good as new. Well, you know what I mean. Woe be unto you if you fail.
Again with the threats. You can file a suit, Miss Newman.
Not threats, madam, just warnings.
A perfect stone. No flaws.
Look, it is the eye. Magnificent.
As you can see, the Eye of Yuji is well guarded. Look around the lecture hall. My museum guards have sworn their lives to protect it. I didn't swear that, did you?
Yeah, but I might have had my fingers crossed.
Dr. Vanderveer, how do you respond to Miss Alman's warnings?
This is all superstitious nonsense. Now, young men, I must ask that you and your companion be seated so we can begin. As for you, ma'am, you and your sister can restrain yourselves or leave the museum.
Fine, we'll hear from his own tongue how this man has defiled the resting place in Menkaura.
Jane, I read the presentation.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I get so nervous when people argue.
Well, there shouldn't be any more disruptions tonight. I promise you that. We're ready to begin.
Go right ahead.
The lecture. You can start the lecture.
The lecture? Oh. Good evening. I am Professor Dirk Carlton. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Vanderveer and the Museum's Board of Trustees for sponsoring my most recent expedition to Egypt, where I was fortunate enough to discover the tomb of the powerful pharaoh Menkaura. He was a proud and handsome man, as you can tell by his image on his sarcophagus. According to the hieroglyphics found on ancient papyrus scrolls, Menkaura was a tyrant who had anyone who displeased him thrown into the Nile with crocodiles. Some said he was a madman, hence his inclusion in monsters, murderers, and madmen.
Blasphemy!
Gesundheit. Elena took some breathtaking photos of the priceless objects entombed with the pharaoh. You see, the Egyptians believed you could take your belongings with you on your journey through the underworld. Wrong. We found all sorts of treasures left behind, so to speak, in the tomb. The Eye of Yuji is the most valuable of the treasures that I discovered, of course, but here are some of the other objects of art that lay beneath the desert sands for thousands of years. Joan?
It's Jane. Jane Trice, Professor Carlton. Guards, will you turn off the lights, please?
My first major discovery was this image of Isis engraved in gold on the door that leads to Menkaura's tomb.
My namesake.
Breathtaking. When we deciphered the hieroglyphics, we found that they are magic spells to ensure the pharaoh eternal life. Next slide, June.
It's Jane.
Ah, yes. Among the artifacts inside the tomb was this elaborate shrine which was protected by the statue of the goddess Selket. Selket wears the image of a scorpion on her head because the ancient Egyptians believed that she had the power to cure their stings. Legend has it that an evil heir next in line for the pharaoh Menetep's throne killed the ruler by dropping a scorpion into the pharaoh's ear, a live one at that, as he slept. But that's another story. Next slide, Joan. Jane.
I'm sorry, Professor. I must have dropped the remote.
Oh!
I'll find it in just a moment.
Would you like me to turn on the lights?
No, I have it. It's right here.
There's a gun under her chair!
corner of the world. But you ought to know, you were always right there next to him. You knew he was an archaeologist when you married him. He made a good living for you, and you never minded spending his money. Dirk told me how you drained his bank accounts through frivolous shopping excursions. That's none of your business.
Elena, Francis, this is not the time.
You know what? You're probably better off with Dirk dead, aren't you? What's that mean? If the divorce had gone through, your shopping sprees would have left little be divided between you. I know he had a very large life insurance policy with you named as beneficiary. He was planning to change that, but died before you could meet with his lawyer. As it stands, you still collect the policy. Are you calling me a fortune hunter? Not just a fortune hunter, Francis. I'm calling you a murderer. You?
Get them! At this rate, I'm gonna get a whole book out of this.
And I'm getting plenty of illustrations for it. Mr. Carlton, if you wish to bring a slander
Leave me alone.
Sounds like Lieutenant Morrow's coming.
Good. Things are about to get out of hand.
Sir, Val, just take it out of hand.
Come on, then.
Elena, compose yourself. I'm gonna meet the policeman at the door. Tony, make sure nothing happens here. Hey, where do you think you're going?
A vital property belonging to the Egyptian government has vanished. You must report this to our embassy at once.
You can come to your embassy after you talk to our police.
On whose authority do you plan on keeping us here?
Smith and Wesson.
Tony, is there anything I can do to help? I'd like to keep busy so I don't think about it.
No, we can come up here with us.
Cara, we never should have disrupted your rest. The Almans were right. The gods have begun their revenge.
It wasn't the dogs who killed Dirk. It was somebody in this room.
How do you know that? Someone could have come through that door over there, stabbed Dirk, and been gone before the lights came back on.
Yeah, but my guards would have seen something in the museum.
And how trustworthy were their guards? One of them might have been willing to kill someone for a jewel worth a fortune.
Absolutely not. This is the professor. Lieutenant Morrow, our head guard Tony here checked to see if the body was dead. She also looked for a rare jewel that the professor was holding when the lights went out. It's nowhere to be found.
I see. Tony,
Lieutenant Morrow?
this is my assistant, Officer Val Holloway.
Hi, hello.
And now, you say that the professor brought the pencil with him, that it was freshly sharpened, about 8 inches long?
That's right, Lieutenant.
Nasty bit of business. I've never seen a pencil used as a murder weapon before. Now, who else was on the stage with the professor when he died?
Just Miss Newman and myself. Jane was at the projector, patrolling it.
And how long was the room dark?
Hard to say, but more than several seconds.
Well, I figure when we find our gem, we'll have our killer. The first step would be to search everyone in this room who could have killed him. I'll start with you two, Dr. Vanderveer and Miss Newman, seeing how you're the closest ones to him. Any objections?
I don't suppose, but I can hardly think that I'm a suspect.
Well, as it stands, everyone in this room, except for Officer Holloway and myself, is a suspect. I'll get to you guys later, but first things first. What about you, Miss Newman? Any objections to being searched?
None. I have nothing to hide.
Is there someplace we could...
Their dressing room's backstage. The woman's over there, the men's over here.
Great. Miss Newman, if you'll go with Officer Holloway, and Tony, if you can search Dr. Vanderveer.
Yes, sir.
Now, Dr. Vanderveer filled me in on the basics, but I need to know which of you knew Professor Carlton personally. Well, it seems that robbery was the motive behind his death. The stealing of the jewel could be a smokescreen for another, even more sinister reason to kill him.
I believe I can help you there, Lieutenant Morrow.
Russ, I assume you're here covering the lecture for the Sentinel.
That's right.
Betty. I've crossed paths with Russ and Betty on a number of cases. They're a sharp news team. Now, Russ, if you have any information that can help us, let's hear it.
Oh boy, do I.
Well, just try to make it quick. We have a lot of stuff to get through.
Okay. The professor was about to show us what he found, buried in an ancient room. Treasures long forgotten on Egyptian ground, enough to fill a pharaoh's tomb.
Mrs. Westbrook Rumor wrote, the faithful truth is really not the least of use. They built a house of horse, yes, it made her click. She said their money's been misused. And that's what happened. That's what really happened. That's what happened tonight.
An attorney named Elvira Grace, spelled with an A, says she's gonna settle the score. She promises she's gonna sue without delay, a half a dozen votes or more.
Then there's Princess Carlton, the weeping widow, proclaimed the final for divorce. The professor had a fling with the bright young kid.
They almost had to fight over dead dirt Carlton. Now the latest with the cops taking off her clothes.
Deputy to your nicest to Egyptian folks, or the Belgian chorus curse.
And then Professor Dirk Carlton up in ropes. And things just couldn't get much worse. And then there's Tommy, the Jules protector, and Jane who was running the slide projector. And there's the body.
These people are wasting your talent working for a newspaper. They could be working for Cliff Notes, not typing 600 big novels down to 30.
Thanks, Russ, Betty. That's a very impressive piece of reporting.
Betcha.
Now, it seems a number of you could have wished Professor Carlton dead. Dr. Van Meer said the blackout lasted more than a couple of seconds, which is long enough for any of you in the front row to rush onto the stage, stab the professor, and get back to your seats before the projector light came back on. The question is, did any of you actually leave your seats during that time? I'll start with you, Ms. Allen. Care to answer first?
I don't remember. As you said, there was confusion. I'm just not sure.
Perhaps your neighbor's memory can prove more useful. Excuse me, did Miss Allen leave her seat during the time the projector was off? Yes, all right. And you, what about the other Allen? Did she leave? All right. We'll just assume that you are, just for the worst case scenario.
To answer your question, Lieutenant, we might have gotten up in surprise, but neither of us went near the professor.
I wouldn't expect you to admit it if you had. Now, Mrs. Carlton, what about you?
Anything that I have to make me through an attorney.
Available for you representation.
Excuse me. Did Mrs. Carlton leave her seat at all? Yes. Now, Miss Gray, can you say anything about your client, Mrs. Westbrook?
No, Lieutenant. I stood up when the lights went out. He was conspicuous. If the professor had hurt himself in the dark, well, on stage perhaps, I was prepared to rush to him and present him a card in case he wanted to sue the museum.
Of course you did, Mr. Card. Excuse me. Did Mrs. Westbrook get up at all during the time that the light was off?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. It seems that all of the prime suspects in this case had a motive as well as opportunity to commit this crime. We'll begin our investigation with them. For the moment, I'll consider you all to be witnesses primarily, although I'm not ruling out the possibility that any of you in the front row could have murdered the professor and stolen the jewels.
I didn't find anything on Dr. Vanderveer.
Thank you, Colonel.
You mean the police really say that? She's clean? I hate that phrase. It sounds as if you're surprised the time that I took a bath.
It's nothing personal, Miss Newman.
You think not? You stripped down to your underwear in front of a total stranger and told me it's not personal.
We're just doing our job, Miss Newman, and it's not over yet. Miss Allen, Mrs. Carlton, and Mrs. Westbrook, if you'll please retire to the dressing room and take your purses. Mrs. Gray, you might as well join them, seeing there's minutes getting up during that time as well.
I can't imagine why you include me in your search, Lieutenant.
It's been known that many lawyers have gone to extremes for the clients.
Even murder?
It's been known to happen. You might as well join them as well.
I do this as a gesture of goodwill. You have no right to give me or my sister orders.
Mighty sporting of you. Tony, Val?
I'm guessing you don't need lectured. Would you like me to take a walk?
Yes, good.
I'm so relieved I'm not a suspect. I don't think I could bring myself to undress in front of anyone.
From what I've been told, it's pretty obvious that you didn't leave the computer.
No, I didn't.
That clears you of suspicion of murder, but it doesn't let you off the hook completely.
What do you mean?
At the time Dirk Carlton was killed, you were controlling the only source of light in the entire room. As it stands, the projector light going off could have been an accident, as you claim, or you could have turned it off deliberately.
But why would I do that?
To give someone the opportunity to commit a murder.
But that would make me...
An accomplice, or to be more exact, an accessory before the fact.
Oh, but I'm innocent! I could never...
I just hate it when suspects do that. I suppose we kind of have to be good now.
I have to say yes to that.
Jane, what happened?
I'm afraid Miss Trice has fainted. She can come to you in a couple minutes, probably just leave her alone.
Jane was always a very high-strung individual. It doesn't take much to upset her. Jane, wake up.
You know, the floor up here is getting kind of crowded. Can't imagine what's taking the medical examiner.
We keep an emergency, we keep a stretcher in the back in case of emergencies. I can ask some of my museum guards to take the professor's body into my office until you're all right.
That sounds like a good idea, but we normally have have our crime lab photographers take pictures of the body before we do anything with it.
I took several photos after the lights came back up.
Great, Penny. Then I guess we can dispose of outlining the body, seeing how the cause of death is pretty obvious.
Val, Tony, can you get the stretcher and take the professor's body into my office?
You're actually taking Dirk away?
Either that or the mummy case.
That one is going to get on my nerves. What?
You fainted. Here, let me help you to your seat.
Good grief, she's still at it? That's the third time she's talked to the knife, and that's more than I have in 3 years. See what's in her mouth. See how cruel and heartless she is. No wonder the poor man was starved for affection. You think he loved you? Any guy or any woman that would make Dirk happy had to be at least 2,000 years old and covered in band-aids. Dirk did love me, and I loved him. And that is your problem.
Laura, are you ready?
Yes, please proceed.
Oh, except your gun.
I can take it off your hands.
That was a thoroughly unpleasant experience. I donate my money to a treasure cause, and what do I get in return? Frisk! If I catch pneumonia, I'm going to sue the police department. What are you going to do now? Call us off to who's got?
No, Mr. Carlton, at least not yet. First, you're all going to be questioned extensively regarding your relationship to the deceased. It's not often that I encounter so many witnesses to the events that lead up to a murder. Their impressions could actually prove quite valuable to this investigation.
Lieutenant, you have already guessed that some of our group may have had personal reasons to have cause for personal harm. But what could I have to for him? He brought wonderful publicity to the museum.
I realize that. I also realize that his death tonight will bring international attention to you.
And the fact that he spoke for the monsters, murderers, and madmen series, the irony would be delicious.
Now that
It's a sensational story.
exactly. And I don't doubt that the press will make the most of the exhibit out there as well. I can just imagine the headlines in a dozen different foreign languages across the world. Murder in the House of Horrors.
Now, I can see why I was so upset with the way you spent my money.
You asked about motives. I say I have a strong enough motive as everyone else here in this room.
Rubbish!
And what about me? I already admitted I was in love with the man. Why would I kill him?
Murder is the end result of many romantic relationships, Miss Newman. Often the police never actually discover what the motive behind the murder is, but if this is your case, I'll figure out why you killed him. Dr. Van Heer, I noticed that there were several chairs out over there. Would you mind bringing in half a dozen or so?
You wish. I'll help you. I'm standing on it.
In that case, if you wouldn't mind just lining them up across the front of the stage. Before I question you each individually, I would like to give the witnesses in the audience a chance to ask you whatever is on their mind. Having seen the altercations of tonight, and among the suspects that are referred to, you can probably come up with some questions that I wouldn't think to ask. For the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to request your help. Jane, if you're still not feeling really well, please just take a seat. Officer Holloway, if you'll sit with her and take some notes. When you all are done, if you could be seated. Excuse me, if you have a question, please raise your hand. When I point to you, stand and address your question to whichever suspect you wish. I think it's safe to assume that the murderer up here will not want to say anything that will reveal his or her guilt, so expect one of them to be lying. Val, if you'll keep an eye on the time, like 10 minutes or so. Dr. Van Heer, can you have the auditorium lights turned back on? Now, does anyone have any questions for any of these suspects? Yes.
Do any of the suspects have a razor burn on their hand?
No. No, please show your name. From what I see, I am not seeing any burns on the hands. No. Anyone else? Yes.
I want to know why his
Nothing except a bunch of handkerchiefs covered in tears. Any of you else have purses? No? All right. More questions? Yes, over there.
Was there anything in the podium that was conveniently moved out? Last known spot of the duel?
From what I recall, I don't believe that there was actually anything on the podium besides the professor's notes. So unless he was killed with his notes, which if it was a pencil, I think that we're safe to assume that there's nothing on there. Yes?
Is there a possibility that the duel was poisoned?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Let me just come down real quick.
Was there a possibility that he was poisoned instead?
Well, I don't
Yes,
think...
he was stabbed and stood in poison.
We could believe that he has been poisoned, but the main cause of death was the pencil. Someone had to run up there and stab him for that to happen. Yes?
Could we check the professor's notes and see if he wrote something down?
Let me go check with our guard, see where they actually put the notes. Tony. From what I am seeing, it is mostly just notes about his lecture. Most of it is just saying, don't be anxious, you got this. So besides that, just notes on the lecture. Yes?
Do any of the suspects lift weights or arm wrestle?
Do I? Now, Mrs. Carlton seems like she's a pretty strong woman, seeing how she was showing off over here. Do any of you?
Oh, goodness, no.
I'm a lawyer. I barely have to lift my finger.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Gray, for that. Yes, in the front. Well, the professor actually came on with the pencil, so the person that stabbed him must have gotten to the professor first and grabbed it out of his hand to stab him.
Lieutenant Morrow?
Yeah?
You asked me to tell you when 10 minutes are up. They're up.
All right, thank you, Val. Let me just refer to my notes real quick. All right. And thank you to all of our interrogators. Your questions were actually very insightful. You can turn the lights back. Oh, they're actually out now.
Now we know what it feels like to be in a real house of horrors and strapped on a rack.
You're not finished yet. I still intend to interrogate you all myself.
I was wondering, what could but the eye of UNG do anyway? I mean, with an artifact as distinctive as that one, wouldn't it be recognized immediately? Surely all jewelers would notify the police.
You are a very naive young woman, Miss Trice. Anybody who has the jewel in their possession would just give it off and sell it to some jeweler. There are many multimillionaires in the world today. And once you have coveted something that's worth more than any human could ever imagine, what do you strive for then? You strive for the unattainable. My sister speaks the truth. These men and women would not ask the seller of the eye of eulogy how it came into their possession. They would just pay what it seemed worth to have in their possession.
But why? Who would they show it to?
They do not covet such treasures to display them. Their desire is to own them. The owning is everything.
Lieutenant Morrow, even if the almond was correct, how would anyone be able to approach such a seller?
Think about it, Miss Trice. Dr. Vanderveer is a curator of the museum, and through fundraisers could be many wealthy patrons, such as Mrs. Westbrook. Now, Mrs. Westbrook travels the social circles that the Allmans were referring to. In fact, she could possibly be one of the collectors that the Allmans were referring to. Since the Eye of Eulogy cannot be sold publicly, perhaps she saw another way to gain ownership of it. Due to her profession, Miss Gray here is familiar with those who are rich and famous. Again, could possibly see many of these collectors. An archaeologist, Elena Newman, has probably seen many influential men and women worldwide on her trips, one of whom might have approached her to obtain the unattainable. Similar offer could have been made to the Allmans themselves due to their embassy connections. Mrs. Carlton, the wife of the man who discovered the ancient treasure trove, can also be questioned regarding the Eye of Eulogy. One of this select group of people could have found herself with an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, or four with one stone, if you pardon the pun. Namely, the chance to kill a person they wish to see dead, and the opportunity to steal a priceless treasure. See, I've singled you out as these 7 out as suspects, Miss Gray. Who else besides your group could have a double motive for murder?
Lieutenant Mara, the medical examiner here is right back the morgue.
Good. I assume Dr. Van Veer's office is now vacant?
Yes, sir.
With your permission, I'd like to use your office as an interrogation room to have each of you come in individually for further questioning.
Certainly.
If you'll all accompany me.
Oh, I can't believe he's gone. Professor Carlton?
Yes? Was it something I said?
It's the fact that you said something at all. Dead men don't normally carry on conversation.
Dead men. You mean Dirk.
And just who are you?
I am Professor Kirk Carlton, Dirk's twin. Like my brother, I'm a professor of ancient cultures, except while his field lies in Egyptian relics, mine lies in Chinese antiquities. Or should I say was? You say Dirk is dead?
I'm afraid so, Professor Carlton. I'm Lieutenant Dan Mara with the Homicide Division. Your brother was murdered tonight here on the stage.
Murdered? How? Why? By whom?
That's what I intend to find out. I was just about to question the prime suspects in the museum curator's office. You can join me if you'd like.
Just try and stop me. I'm not going to rest until I know who killed Dirk. It's a fact that one of you is lying, no denying one of you is guilty. One of you is surely justifying a vile piece of handiwork. Order! Order!
What's the reason? What's the motivation? Correlation? Who could be the culprit? We will find through this investigation who killed Dirk. Let's try the more direct approach.
Was it you? Was it you?
No, never!
How about you?
This is absolutely, positively absurd!
Was it you?
No!
Was it you?
No!
Or how about you?
The most preposterous thing I've ever heard.
You look suspicious.
Me?
Yes, you. Was it you?
You're joking!
Not at
It
all.
wasn't us!
Right. Was it you?
No.
Or maybe you?
No!
How about the guards?
Stop this evil masquerade, this cat and mouse. Somewhere there's a killer in this house.
It's a fact that one of us is lying, no denying one of us is guilty. Someone here is surely justifying a vile piece of handiwork. Order! Order! It's a fact that one of us is hiding, simply biding time so they can vanish. Always thought that I was law-abiding. Who killed Dirk?
Ah, one of you has gone berserk. Was it you? Was it you?
Or you?
Or you?
Or you? You surely look the type.
Was it you? I think you see the killer now. Surely it had to be you.
Where were you when the light went out?
This is simply outrageous.
Maybe.
I know. You all planned it. You all killed it.
What?
One of you is mocking, laughing, somewhere near while poor Dirk's dead with a pencil in his ear.
What's the reason? What's the motivation? Correlation? Who could be the culprit?
We will find through this investigation who killed Dirk.
Order! Order! Who killed Dirk?
Order! Order!
Who killed Dirk?
We'll find out. Don't worry. I'm sorry, but I can't release you as of yet. I further need of your assistance. For the next few minutes, while I'm involved with this group, feel free to leave the auditorium, stretch your legs, get a drink of water, whatever. During this time, I'm going to ask the museum guards to circulate among you and jot down any ideas that you might have. They'll pass your suggestions on to me.
Lieutenant Morrow, should I interview the witnesses as well? I need assistance. It would be of great help for my work.
Sure, let me know when you discover. Tony, if you can keep an eye on the stage. I expect to see all of you back here